Today's question comes from Caleb in Georgia. What do you think about the new FedNow and centralized banking that's soon happening in the U.S.? What I commonly see is that they're gunning to take away cash, which goes against a lot of what your programs are for. Please correct me where I'm wrong. I'm still learning more about it, but I'm curious to see what you have to say.
Well, the Fed has announced this, and there are really two components of it that matter. The first one is that they're going to modernize an antiquated banking system. Today, when you, for instance, deposit a check, it takes 3 to 10 days for that check to clear the other bank. In a digital world, that should take 3 to 10 seconds for your check to be bouncing or good. When I put your check in my account or vice versa, or I make a transfer to your account, it shouldn't have to sit there 3 days to be verified. It ought to be able to just reach over to the other bank, find out if you've got some freaking money in there, and take it out and move it over to your bank. That's how a check's supposed to work. And that system is operating like the 1930s right now, and they're trying to move it into the digital world. That is, as far as I can tell, 100% positive, what I understand of it. The second piece is they're talking about issuing digital dollars, which they already do, so I don't understand. They're not saying they're going to do away with cash. They're saying they're going to offer digital dollars. Well, let me help you, George. When we move money from your account to my account, and you don't use actual physical dollars to go to the branch and make a deposit, you have, by definition, moved digital dollars, baby. That's what they are.
Yeah, most transactions in today's world are digital.
Like 98% are digital. They're not cash transactions.
They're not actually shipping boatloads of hard cash to other banks.
There's a whole lot more money in our economy with digital transfers flowing around, currency, it as a current, than cash. And they're not talking about doing away with cash in this proposal. Nothing I've read anywhere except maybe some, dark web conspiracy theories say they're trying to do away with cash. Now, the downside is if they actually issue a template, which is what they're talking about doing, it's almost a crypto of sorts of the dollar is what it amounts to. They're going to issue you a digital transaction that's different than the digital transactions that we do now. The downside is the fear is that they'll start controlling those digital
government overreach.
Yeah.
That's the worry.
Exactly. Like ESG, for instance, they're going to try to say, okay, if you're not going to be woke, you're not going to be able to use your digital dollars. Or if we wanted to ration gasoline, you're not going to be able to use your digital dollars, but you can only use 50 digital dollars to buy gas. And then you have to come up with other dollars of your own. Black market dollars. No, it's not how it works, okay? But that's the fear that's out there. DeSantis and Kennedy both came out against this on the basis that the central bank could overreach their use of this as control. And if they try to use it for ESG stuff, I would agree. If they're trying to control currency and trying to invoke some kind of power over it, I think that would be a problem. But I won't have all of my money in their digital dollars. I'll just have it in digits in my account.
And they're not going to force people to use these digital dollars.
They couldn't. It's the conversion to that would require a complete overhaul of the way we do everything in our economy.
Nightmare.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
If you went from let's say you had to have a certified number to move money to Venmo, or to just to reach over and move money from your savings into your checking so you could cover your Pizza Hut bill, right? Or whatever it is. This would be, the number of transactions this would involve would be so large that for government to get their arms around it and control it, I don't think it would be possible on scale. I mean, it would have to be some kind of real fascism, which honestly, some of the ESG stuff approaches fascism at times because they've got this.
Well, they're assigning values to your money.
They're like religious zealots, in a sense, to push their agendas, and they'll stop at nothing to do that. But and that's, of course, DeSantis and Kennedy's argument, is to keep the central bank, not their job to invoke social change. Their job is to run the banking system.
You stay in your lane, let them stay in theirs.
And as long as they do that, no harm, no foul with any of this. Now, to the extent that they might do that with the digital dollars, it could become hairy, and it's a whole new place you could get canceled if you didn't meet the
there'd be a
if you didn't
revolt.
meet the woke criteria or whatever, right? And so that would be a problem if your dollars freaking got canceled. That's a whole different thing. So if that got to that point, then I think long before then we would have fired a bunch of people. And Americans just don't tolerate being controlled for very long, with rare exceptions.
We're stubborn like that.
With rare exceptions. Sometimes we're sheeple, and we all go into our houses for 90 days and wait on a virus to pass. But other than that, we very seldom are controlled. Most of the time, we don't do what we're told. And so, which is good. Even if you disagree with me, you shouldn't have to do what you're told. That's called like freedom and stuff. So anyway, that's the downside of this thing that everybody's moaning about.
But the implications are, I'm not losing sleep over this. I'm not going to bed worried at night about what if centralized banking and digital dollars and cashless society. This usually turns into fear-mongering from the media and paranoia.
Here's the weird thing. The faster you can transfer funds, the more freedom you have. The more robust an economy is, the more freedom you have. The easier you can do a transaction, the more transactions occur, the more prosperity you can endure, and the more freedom you have. So the first part of this discussion, this ease of transfer and the shortening of the hold periods and all that, because they're updating the antiquated system, is going to add way more freedoms than the little corner of the digital dollars might try to take away. So the net on it, I think, is going to be extremely positive. Although I'm not a big fan of the Fed, and I'm not a defender of the Fed. I'm certainly, for you bozos on Twitter, not a shill of the Fed, just to let you know. But matter of fact, I think some of the stuff they're doing with interest rates is some of the most asinine anti-economic, anti-capitalism stuff I've ever seen in my life right now. Complete freaking morons. So there's the other side of the equation, right?
If you were confused, now he's been clear.
Yeah, but that's it. I mean, so overall, this is good. Overall, this is good. It's I think it's going to help. And here's an interesting thing we can kind of parlay into this too. I think what I said a few minutes ago might be the most important part of our little discussion on this, I think. It's not the individual pieces of this FedNow thing. The thing you need to remember is where there is no prosperity, where there is extreme poverty, where economics are hard to create, where it's hard to start and run a business, where it's hard to transact, where everything's clamped down, where there's poverty. Poverty follows a lack of economic opportunity, not the other way around. Poverty is the result of economies that are choked down, where freedom is not. So if you want less poverty, statistically and historically, if you'll study the economies of the world, if you want less poverty, increase freedom, increase ease of transactions, increase ease of starting, and less regulation on a business. Let people go and do what people do. Jefferson said capitalism is what happens when you leave people alone.
Amen.
And that when you do that, nations rise up out of poverty. Why do you think the poverty level in the U.S. is so much lower than it is in developing countries? Freedom. That's why.
Land of opportunity.
Freedom matters economically.